Hello. Well, I've had a big pile of video recorders which you've seen me working my way through, and this is next on the list. And this is one that certainly wouldn't be getting repaired if it doesn't work already. Of course, it's not a recorder, it's a player. Let's have a look. So it's a Sony BVW-22P office player for Betacam and BetacamSP. So I'll point out a few of the interesting features of this machine and a major feature that it lacks. So looking at the front here, it does cover both the longitudinal linear audio stereo sound as well as AFM stereo sound. Now that's useful because some machines, such as a UVW-1200P, which is a much more elaborate machine than this, only has linear audio. So that could come in handy. Another useful feature of this, again over the UVW-1200P, is that it will accept the oxide tapes, which are kind of Betamax tapes, if you like, recorded in the Betacam format, as well as the SP metal formulation tapes. And it takes the small and large tapes. So far so good, you'd say. Good machine. Tracking is manual. Okay, but, you know, we're talking professional studio machines here. Tracking is almost never wrong anyway. Where does it fail though? Well, this one has various screws missing, which is always a bad sign, but it might be that it had been used in a rack somewhere. So I might not need to worry about that too much. Oh, it has a BBC logo on the front. So at some point in its life it will have been very well maintained. Go around the back though, and this is where the wheels start to fall off the BVW-22P. The output connectors. It's got composite video either on a phono or BNC socket, stereo audio out or mono audio out, a modulator for connecting to a TV that's so old it doesn't even have video input, which, come on Sony, that's silly. Why would anybody use an ancient TV like that even in the day this was built? This old monitor socket, I have come across these before, and it's useless. It doesn't even support stereo sound, so that's fairly useless. So what's missing? How's about S-video out, or YUV out, or RGB out? Oh dear. Okay, it's a player, so of course it has no input sockets, but only having composite video out makes it kinda useless for any actual real work you'd want to give it. Only other connectors, power, and a ground connection there. Oh, and another BBC sticker. Last tested in 1997. Right, well, it's about to be tested in 2020. So I'll power it up first and see if we get anything at all. Then we'll try it mechanically, and then if that works, then we'll connect it to a TV, and we'll also have a look inside. Okay, let's power it up. There's the on-off switch. I'll start with off. I always use my isolated power supply. Well, so far so good. That all lights up. Let's try a tape. Have a collection of tapes to try here. So we've got some BetacamSP tapes in both small and large form factor. And just for laugh, also a Betamax tape, which actually this won't play. This has got just colour bars on it in Betamax format, or domestic beta format. But this machine won't just spit it out like a UVW-1200 would. So we'll just have a look, shall we? See what happens if you play colour bars from a beta tape on this, if it works. Right, let's start by see if it'll take a tape. Sounds like a slipping belt or something. Error 21. Give it another go. That sounded better. I think it should lace up now. There we go, that sounds like it's lacing. Press play, see if we get something on here. Not sure what it's doing now. Stop, rewind. Error 0A. See if we can eject. Well, it ejected okay and didn't damage the tape. Let's have a look inside. With so few screws, and even those being loose, it won't take long to get in. Now, I have taken one of these apart before on my channel, and it was because I was raiding a switch. I think it was that switch for a high 8 machine. Right, I'll switch off the input power. Remind myself how to open this panel. Right, well, it comes apart easily enough, and they've thoughtfully put insulators on the back here so that when the board swings open, the metalwork won't touch the board. I wonder if the loading motor belt is slipping. I would change that, that should be easy enough. Let's get you into position, you can see the inside of the machine better. So what we're looking at here is the head drum and loading motor and belt here, and the loading ring. Cassette carriage is just here off the front. I shall push it back a tiny bit so you can see that. Right. Let's just load that tape again and see what we get. It's not lacing, is it? Go on. Is it trying to lace? Yes, I think maybe. The loading motor isn't spinning enough. Okay, I'll switch it off and on, get it to the point it's trying to lace, and stops. Switch it off and see if I can manually lace it up. Yeah, it feels stiff. Yes. It's not a slipping belt, that's not the problem. Yeah, it really can't go any further than that. It's not just a bit sticky, it really can't go any further than that. Let's eject the tape. I've tried to set you up so you can see what's happening here. I've got a tape in as far as it would go. It started lacing up. So it goes this way and it attempts to lace up. And I'm hoping you can just about see this guide here is travelling along. Let me show you, let me wind it back again. I'm trying to find something better to point with. There's a guide, oh I just can't seem to point to it. There's a guide here on the loading ring which is rotating this way, and it is colliding with, I'm just so struggling to point to things. It is colliding with this assembly here. So something's out of position, because clearly I don't know what the sequence should look like, but that guide should not be hitting this, and when it hits that it just gets to the point it can't go any further. So that's the cause of it not being able to lace up. But I need to understand what the setup of these guides should be like. I might have to refer to another machine. Don't really want to do that. So what we have here is a scrap machine. It's one that I'd raided a switch off, which you will have seen in one of my previous videos. So let's do the same thing. We're going to wind this into the laced position, and we're going to watch the interaction between, if I can get to it, this guide here and the one that's coming round on the loading ring. Okay, what happens here is this guide, this one here, this arm, is swinging across, and so there's no risk of them colliding, and that goes on to perform other functions later. So whichever part of the mechanism is responsible for driving this arm across as it laces is not working because this arm is jammed up. So let's have a look at what activates that. There's a metal post in a slot underneath the deck which you can barely see, and I can hardly see at all, which travels that way during the lacing and pushes this guide across. So there's a piece of metal under this guide with a slot in it, and a metal pin drives that way during lace up and pushes the arm across. Right. Okay, that's how it's supposed to work. Let's have a look at the defective deck. I can see the slot in the bottom of this arm, and I can see the pin, and it's steadfastly staying over there. It's not going across, so that's why the arm is not moving out of the way. Right, what activates that pin? I think I may have just freed it up. Yes, I think I freed it up. Okay. Let's power up the machine and see if it works a little bit better. Put the tape in. No, still stuck. Eject. Thought we had it then. Okay, it's a lubrication issue, obviously. This isn't swinging properly. So what's supposed to happen? There's a follower there, which you can't quite see, that's underneath, that's in the track of this ring, and as the ring comes round it should push that arm through, but it's still sticky, so we'll apply a bit of suitable lubrication to that. Okay, so we're still struggling with lubrication on that point, but I've got it to lace up. Let's see if we can get it to eject. Okay, lace again. No, it's not right, you know. There's a guide not in the right place. This guide should have come back. It's in the wrong place. Right, that's correct. Can the guide go forward from here? Yes, I think that's correct. That's correct. Now unlace. Ah no, the guide got stuck and ruined my tape. That makes me unhappy. Alright, so we're still struggling with this guide being sticky. The problem is that the actuator for this guide here is just not well lubricated, and I've taken the circlip off and put some penetrating fluid down there, but it's not helping. And taking, or not much, and taking this, you can see there's a circlip, I don't know if you can see, there's a circlip. Let me try and set you up to see it. There's a circlip's been removed from that point, and I've put some penetrating fluid down there, but it's still sticky on its shaft. But to take that off doesn't look at all trivial. I mean, ideally take it off and oil it up properly, but that looks very difficult. So I'm just going to have to roll with it for a minute and see if we can get the machine to run well enough to at least try to play a tape. I'm going to have to help it unlace, otherwise it'll snag the tape like it did earlier. Okay, let's set it up so that we can get a tape in there, get it properly laced up, and then try and play the tape. So that's correctly laced. Alright, and if I press play, you won't be able to see the screen, but I'll see if there's anything on the display, any time coding. I'm not seeing anything yet, actually. That might be the tape. I'll stop there and just test a few deck functions before we try it on the TV. So just fast forward. I'm not getting anything on the display. Rewind. If there's nothing appears there, then we won't get any picture, so there's no point even trying. We're just reading zeros at the moment. Let's rewind. Ah, we've got a little bit time code information there. Maybe a few seconds by the looks of it, but it might be enough for us to connect it to a screen and see if we get anything out of it. And yes, appropriate enough, BBC television. Very rough picture. Let's just try the tracking. Probably hasn't been used in many years. Try picture search. No FM audio on this tape. And we'll try pause if we can find the pause button. I think pause is stop actually on this one. Yes. Okay, now I'm going to have to help it unlace, because that arm will get stuck in the way again, so this is going to be hard. Ah, no, that wasn't what was supposed to happen. That went quite badly wrong again. Got some extra dropouts on my tape now. So when I hit eject, I need to be quick about pulling that arm back. Yes, like that. Right, I know how to work it now. So I'm going to try again to lubricate that bad arm. Looking at that same part on this machine, that's free to move. This component down here is not sticky, So we just need to lubricate that component on our target machine and hopefully we'll fix it. Okay, I've tried a bit of this oil and worked it in, and I've actually got it working quite nicely now. So this component is no longer stuck. It's now free to move. And I think if we put a tape in there, we'll see it lace up properly. Let's give that a spin. So that's the guide there. It's moving properly forwards, and equally important, during eject, it swings back now. Good. Fixed. Okay, having fixed it, let's do a little bit more testing. And since I had to get that scrap machine, I've got a full set of screws now for installing onto the cabinet, so that'll be a lot tidier. Got a full set of screws for the cabinet. Let's just play a little bit longer, make sure everything works. So, a little bit noisy, but I think that's probably normal. That's working, although we do have a lot of dropouts. I think there are a lot of dropouts in this tape anyway. A few more tapes, not sure what's on these. Yeah, these tapes are in terrible shape. But it is playing okay. One more tape we'll try. So we've got a large format tape here. I'm surprised that freeze frame's in black and white, but it seems to be correct. Yeah, that's all working. I'll try the tracking from one extreme to another. I'll just get it onto a different bit of footage. So one extreme tracking, still playing okay. Other extreme tracking, it loses it. It's fair enough. So put it on a decent clean piece of tape. Yeah, that's fine. You know, before we put this thing away, it'd be nice to look at some of the circuitry, because it seems so simple. All it is a player. It doesn't have much to do. So why is there so much of it? Let's have a look. At the back, I should say, it's powered down now. We have a power supply. The head amplifier is mounted here, right above the head drum for minimum noise. Part of the head amplifier spins on with the heads, so there are slip rings there to power it. Amplifiers here, so let's have a look. We have things like dropout switch control, so that switches a dropout compensator on. Dropout chroma dropout switch, and somewhere there'll be a luma dropout switch. Haven't found that yet. AGC, chroma RF amplifier, luma RF amplifier, Y filter, Y demodulator, low pass filter, dropout CCD, so that I think will be delay line there. It doesn't have a digital time-based corrector, it doesn't have a digital dropout compensator. Reg, so that's presumably a power regulator for this board. And that's just that one small sub panel. Looking on the top here, YC mix out. So it's possibly, with a bit of fiddling about, you could bypass some of this and add amplifiers to get you an S-video output socket. Maybe. Chroma clamp burst. Oh, there's so much. Encode timing, sync separator, sync addition. So that would be adding sync to the composite video. Why no ICANN 1 and 2? I'm not sure what that is. And more chroma no ICANN. Not sure what that stands for. Noise cancelling? Noise cancelling probably. Amplifiers R minus Y and B minus Y amplifiers. So of course the format's capable of doing YUV, but the machine only outputs composite. Seems such a waste. Right, these boards here. This is Dolby noise reduction. I think this one is probably the Syscon. Look, it's got item and set, so you can go through menus there. Oh, that sounds interesting. We might have a play with that. And we can set the pause timeout there. Should we see what we can find in there? You never know, there might be something interesting. Let's power it up again. I've never played with these. How do you get the menu on? Item, set. There might be something you need to do in order to get it into the menu mode. Hours meter. Oh, there's an hours meter actually on the front. Let's look at that. There's an hours meter here on the front. So press that once. And what's it saying? Operating hours. 8,000 hours? Really? Drum 2,800 something hours. That's quite a lot. They're the resettable hours. So do that again. The total operating hours 8,000, almost 9,000. The total drum hours 2,800 and something, and then the resettable. I think that's resettable hours, so that means if you've changed your heads, I think there's an option for remote control on this, and the remote control that goes with this looks like the body of it was made by the same people who built the body to a lot of Betamax, made by the same design group as the people who built the body for a lot of Betamax remote controls. So you can tell that professional and domestic parts of Sony did work together. Right, one last thing I did promise you was to try a Betamax tape, that's to say domestic beta. This tape has colour bars and test tone on it. So let's see what happens if we put that in here. Hit rewind. I'm not getting any time code at all. I thought CTL would do something. Well, presumably then we'll get nothing. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. That's not what I recall happening last time I tried it. I got something there, and I got sound from the headphones anyway, and I had some sort of scrambled picture, but today that doesn't appear to be the case. Oh well, nothing at all then. There it is, running the BVW-22P. Now, it's a possibility that the picture quality is a little off the quality it should be. It seems perfectly viewable, but maybe it should be a little better. But it doesn't really matter because it's only intended as an office viewer. And you might say, well, what will I ever use it for? Well, actually, probably for its original purpose. If anybody has a collection of tapes that they need to check through before I transfer them to hard disk, I'm happy to lend that machine to somebody, a customer of mine, so they don't have to borrow something that's much more expensive and valuable. That's a perfectly usable machine, and it's treating the tapes fine. There's nothing wrong with that for playback of tapes. I'm happy with that. So I hope you've learned something from this and enjoyed playing about with this old machine. Do please remember to like, share, and especially subscribe, and I'll do lots more content on audio and video technology in the near future. This is the first video I've done in 4K. Let me know if it's worth the trouble. Bye for now.